the healthier I get emotionally, the more I can be in an unpleasant and uncomfortable space with you, with your unpleasant emotions, right? But if I'm not safe or comfortable with my own emotions, I'm not going to feel comfortable or safe if you start expressing deep, maybe painful emotions with me. Whoa, hey, well, there's nothing to see here kind of thing. And that's not what I want. I want to be able to be a friend that can handle your tough, difficult emotions, right? As an executive coach, I've got to be safe and comfortable with my own emotions so I can be safe and comfortable with my clients' emotions and the leaders that I work with. And so not just from a coaching standpoint, but a friends and family standpoint. How comfortable and safe are you around your friends and family's uncomfortable, intense, unpleasant emotions? And if you're not comfortable, that could be a sign that, okay, maybe there's some emotional healing and emotional healthiness that I need to get and grow and develop so that I can be safer. What is going on, EQ gangsters? So hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and great time with your family. Some of you may have, some of you may not. I'm sure many of you all know just the emotional times that the holidays bring, from Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And, again, this may not relate to some of you. Some of you, it may hit very heavy. So for me, my dad died 13 years ago today on the 26th of December, the day after Christmas. And I think about my dad regularly, probably maybe not quite daily, but I'd say 5 days a week. I'm thinking about my dad. And I got a lot of things to share about this. So I apologize if I start going all over the place, because I can even feel myself getting a little bit emotional right now. And I had some amazing memories with my dad, amazing memories. He was a little bit socially awkward, and he was an ER doctor, emergency room doctor for 30 some years. Brilliant guy. Just the social skills were not always super dialed in, other than awareness, not for lack of trying. He loved people very, very much. Sometimes found himself just having difficulty connecting with people. And as a kid, he had, I think, a little bit of a tough time connecting with his kids in some regards. And, we've got a teenager, and one of the things I'm working on right now is how can I connect better with my daughter, my teenage daughter. She's a thinker, and sometimes it's challenging for me to, get some thoughts out of her and stuff. And I just want her to know that I love her and that I value her and that I want to connect with her, and emotionally, mentally, intellectually, spiritually. And that she knows that I'm here for her. And, that's a whole other thought, right? Is what will your children remember about you when you pass? What is my daughter going to remember about me when I pass? What I want her to remember? What legacy do I want to leave, and what do I want to have? And typically, leading up to this time is always a lot of reflection and stuff for me, because just because I know this is when my dad passed, and I'm so thankful for all the amazing memories that I've got with my dad. So thankful. And at some point, I want to write all those down. I haven't yet, because I think it'd be probably overwhelming, just a lot of great memories. But emotional work is never easy. If you guys follow my podcast at all, some of y'all may be watching this live on Facebook right now. Some of y'all may be watching our YouTube channel, EQ Gangster. Some of y'all may be listening to our podcast, EQ Gangster. Emotional work is not easy. And so I have not sat down. This 13 years, y'all, I have not sat down and written all the great memories that I had with my dad. But I want to, at some point, because, I want my daughter to I'd love to have, for my daughter to see those memories also, and to be able to have those for her kids at some point in her life as well. And, the other thing that's kind of been interesting is these last few months, again, if you've been kind of following some of my journey, I lost 50 pounds last year. I lost 50 pounds last year and kept it off for 9 months. Like, that's the fact that, number one, I lost 50 pounds is a miracle. No joke. Like, I've never lost 50 pounds in my life. And to keep it off for 9 months is also insanity. I've never done that before. The last 3 months, I think I have almost gained it all back. And it's been really frustrating for me, really frustrating. And I've kind of slipped back in some ways to my old tendencies of beating myself up and crap, dude, I did all this work and now I've gained it back, and embarrassed and ashamed and frustrated and angry and disappointed and discouraged and disheartened. And, and then I thought, well, man, am I self-sabotaging? Because, man, just God blessed last year tremendously in so many different ways. For those of y'all that heard our story, we cut 90 grand from our income in 2020. And God said, just trust me because I'm your source. And last year he replaced the 90 grand that we cut. And I had no idea how he was going to do it. I had no idea. Just trusted. So God blessed us a lot last year. And one of the things that I have been working on that affected me most of my life was self-sabotage. I've got a PhD in self-sabotage. The closer I would get to success, the more I would start to self-sabotage because I'm not worthy. I don't deserve it. I'm not good enough. I'm not whatever. I'm too big of a sinner, and God's grace and love and mercy are not enough for me. The fact that he sent his son to die on the cross for me is not, well, it wasn't enough. Like, and it's like, do you really? 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 Do you honestly believe that Jesus dying on the cross for you wasn't enough for you? Like, like, where does my headspace have to be to have that thought process? And so, but I had healed from a lot of that stuff because of my emotional growth journey. Like self-sabotage, I haven't done that in a long time. And I haven't exactly landed on what has happened, why I've gained all that weight back. And maybe it was a little bit of self-sabotage. Maybe it was a little bit like, man, a lot is going great in my life right now. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve this. So let me kind of self-sabotage the other thing. So I don't know if that may be, I still need to do some emotional work on that, some reflection on that. The other thing is maybe some complacency set in because I started to feel so good. I just think I started to get a little bit complacent. The other dynamic that could have been is, when emotional challenge hit, when lots of emotional challenges hit, because my emotional bandwidth has definitely been increasing, and my spiritual bandwidth has been increasing because of my emotional bandwidth has been increasing, but it's still not, I'm still growing and working on it. So maybe I went from 2G to maybe I'm 3G now, right? In terms of bandwidth, in terms of emotional bandwidth. So, because there's a lot of emotional things that happened the last few months, I don't know that I clearly didn't handle them very well because I regressed back into some old emotional coping mechanisms and habits of overeating and just eating poorly. And that affects my psyche, man. It just completely affects my psyche. And then also my dad, knowing my dad, okay, my dad passed away on December 26th, 13 years ago. I knew that was coming, right? Subconsciously, I think I knew that was coming. And so it's like, oh man. And there's some areas of my dad's death that I've not handled or grieved through. Here's another interesting thing about my dad passing away. So my dad died, when he initially died and passed away, like I cried a little bit. And then I did what I have always learned to do for 99% of my life, except for a few years ago, was stuff and avoid. So I stuffed and avoided it. And it wasn't until a few years later, man, I normally wear this bracelet of a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine named Ryan Savard. He was killed in action. He was with a very, very elite special missions unit, the most elite special missions unit in the world. And I was very close with he and his wife. And in fact, his last deployment, right before his last deployment, he was teaching me how to fight, how to do knife fighting and this kind of thing. And we had spent some really good time together. And so his wife had called me up right when she found out, this is years ago, right when she found out that he had been killed. And, also hit me pretty good. And then I went to our friend, my friend's wife, her house, and just mourn with her and her family. And I bawled ugly cried for 3 hours. And it was uncontrollable. And it was, man, I was embarrassed. I was like, hey, man, I said, I'm so sorry that I've been so, here I came to try to offer some emotional support. And I'm like, you're offering me emotional support. And what I didn't realize at the time, maybe I had a little bit of insight, but I had ended up combining my mourning for my dear friend Ryan and my dad in the same time, because it totally reminded me of my dad. Obviously, he's younger than me, Ryan, young guy, and probably maybe 15 years younger than me, 10, 15 years younger than me. But he had the same exact demeanor as my dad, just this gentle guy. And I think that's what happened is Ryan dying and then my dad just being so similar. It was very difficult. And I'm thankful that it all came out, but I just wish I was more intentional at grieving my dad passing away, and my friend Ryan too, for that matter. And so I just want to encourage you all that if you have a loved one pass or friend, family member pass away, please take the time to celebrate their life, and the good memories, maybe the unpleasant memories, just the whole thing, right? Allow yourself to feel all the stuff, all the feels, And I encourage people to journal all the pleasant emotions that you remember, all the unpleasant emotions. Let all that stuff out. If you don't, right, leaving that stuff in is not healthy for us. Emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, it's not healthy for us to leave all that stuff in. So I just encourage you all during these times, and be sensitive too, right? If you have friends that are maybe going through stuff, that's why this emotional journey is so important, in my opinion. The healthier I get emotionally, the more I can be in an unpleasant and uncomfortable space with you, with your unpleasant emotions, right? But if I'm not safe or comfortable with my own emotions, I'm not going to feel comfortable or safe if you start expressing deep, maybe painful emotions with me. Whoa, hey, there's nothing to see here, kind of thing. And that's not what I want. I want to be able to be a friend that can handle your tough, difficult emotions, right? As an executive coach, I've got to be safe and comfortable with my own emotions so I can be safe and comfortable with my clients' emotions and the leaders that I work with. And so not just from a coaching standpoint, but a friends and family standpoint. How comfortable and safe are you around your friends and family's uncomfortable, intense, unpleasant emotions? And if you're not comfortable, that could be a sign that, okay, maybe there's some emotional healing and emotional healthiness that I need to get and grow and develop so that I can be safer. How about for your children? Are you safe and comfortable with your children's unsafe, maybe, and uncomfortable and unpleasant emotions, right? So this is such an important thing, right? And the Lord made us as, like, the Lord is the one who gave us the emotions, right? And so, and obviously it's a chemical responses and stuff. I get all that stuff, but I just want to be as healthy as I can be emotionally. And part of being healthy emotionally is processing those the passing of our loved ones that we've had in our lives. Maybe create a journal just for that loved one, so that anytime an emotion or a thought or a memory comes up about that particular loved one, you can go right to that particular journal and build that out and fill that out. And again, how cool would that be to maybe at some point leave to your children and for their children on your loved one that you cared so much about, loved so much. And the other cool thing is that even though my dad died 13 years ago, like, I still think about him almost daily. And it's like I just think of it as a gift when I, think about my dad. I just think, wow, for that little memory that pops up, whatever about my dad, I'm just like, I just am thankful that I got to know someone like that, and that I had someone like that in my life to teach me so much stuff. And I'm still learning things that he taught me when I was a kid. It's really kind of neat. So before, where I would shut those emotions down or those thoughts or memories down because I didn't have the emotional bandwidth, like, oh man, I don't want to feel this memory because maybe I could get sad, or man, if I got sad, then I would show emotion. If I show emotion, people think I'm a weak sauce, and right, all this craziness. And it's like, no, like, man, thank God. And if I can show other people emotional vulnerability and maybe that encourages somebody somehow, man, that's a blessing, right? From a blessing that I'm getting from a gift of a memory that I'm getting from my dad is awesome. And so anyway, I just want to encourage you all to intentionally grieve, intentionally mourn, and don't try to stuff. I encourage you to let that stuff out, express that. I've got a little acronym called APED, go APED, APED, acknowledge the emotion you're feeling. Permission to feel, give yourself permission to feel that emotion. And you can use there's a tool that you can use. You can just Google, it's called emotion wheel. Just Google an emotion wheel. And when you're going through the acknowledge your emotions, that emotion wheel can be very helpful. And then permission to feel, set your watch alarm or your phone alarm for 60 to 90 seconds. Allow yourself to feel each of those emotions that you wrote down. And then E is express that emotion through journaling, write it down, write down those emotions. And then D is discuss, share those emotions with somebody that's safe in your life, but they've got to be safe. They can't be judgmental. They can't be, have a low emotional intelligence, right? If they have any kind of judgment or unsafe feelings about them, that would not be someone that I would encourage you to share your vulnerability and emotional, your emotional intimacy with, so to speak, because maybe they're not that far along in their emotional growth journey. So just make sure it's someone that's safe and non-judgmental, that can handle those emotions that you want to express there. So, and then also my father-in-law has a griefreliefministries.com. He's got all kinds of stuff on how to grieve and mourn in healthy, productive ways. Griefreliefministries.com. He's lost 2 spouses. So he had his first wife of 20 years passed away of cancer. His second wife of 20 years passed away from cancer. So he's written a book on how to help people who are grieving. He's got all kinds of great resources. That wasn't even the point of this, but and the only reason I'm bringing that up is to encourage you to grieve intentionally and mourn intentionally. And that is okay. It's healthy. It's normal and natural for us to feel feelings of loss and grief and mourning when a loved one passes away. It's been, and not just when a loved one passes away. Maybe you lost a job that you loved. Maybe you lost a pet. Maybe you lost a friendship. Grief can happen for a lot of different reasons. And the last couple of years have not been easy, y'all, emotionally. So please have lots of grace for your friends and family members, lots of love, lots of patience, because some people may be suffering silently and we don't even know. So again, thank you for letting me be a part of your emotional growth journey, for you guys being a part of my emotional growth journey. Thanks for sharing and subscribing and rating and reviewing our podcast and YouTube channel, whichever one you guys consume content on. And, for me, I want to help as many people and as many leaders get as emotionally healthy as possible. Emotionally healthy leaders create emotionally healthy families and organizations and cultures, which create so much. Emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally.